on the ballot, we come right before the soil and water people, which aren't, so we're low down, and I get to follow you now, so thank you. I'm happy to be here. I served 5 years in the United States Army upon graduating law school. Spent a couple years at Fort Hood, and a couple years at the Pentagon. Thank you. It has been an absolute privilege to serve as a judge. The law is my passion. I never thought I would say that. I absolutely love what I do, and I can't see myself doing anything else. But this is Memorial Day, and this is a day where we recognize and remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Those individuals came from various walks of life, some rich, some poor, of all races, all religions, all backgrounds. Some joined because they were forced to join because of a draft. Some joined out of patriotic service. Some joined because a judge said you either join or you go to jail. But one thing they all had in common, other than making the ultimate sacrifice, is they raised their right hand and they said, I do solemnly swear that I will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true allegiance to the same. Then you go on and say you obey the orders of the President. And it's interesting that you are not pledging to support and defend the United States, but the Constitution of the United States. And why is that? There are a lot of countries who have an executive branch, they've got a legislative branch, and they've got judges. So what makes this country different? And what makes that oath so important? It's the first 10 amendments to the Constitution that we now know as the Bill of Rights. We created a government that was very strong, and the people were afraid. So in their wisdom, the framers of the Constitution created the 10 Bill of Rights. I won't go through them all, you know them. It's freedom of religion, freedom of the press, free speech, the right to bear arms. Those are fundamental guarantees that we all have that are given to us that many countries do not enjoy. It was because of the Bill of Rights and the passage of the Bill of Rights that North Carolina became, and this may be confusing, the 13th state but the 12th colony to ratify the federal Constitution. And that's because Vermont was not one of the original colonies, but it became a state. North Carolina became the 13th state to ratify because of the passage of the Bill of Rights, and Rhode Island became the 14th. North Carolina had a very love-hate relationship with the royal governors, and because of that, they feared a strong federal government. And it was only because the Bill of Rights were passed that they ratified it. And that love, it's more of a hate relationship than a love-hate with royal governors, is the reason why we had a very different type of constitution. I'm going to read you some things from an opinion I wrote 2 years ago. It's the will of the people of North Carolina, as expressed in the North Carolina Constitution, is the supreme law of the land. Our Constitution is actually a restriction of power. It is not a grant of power. Because anything that people have not surrendered to another branch of government is reserved back to the people through their elected representatives, the legislature. And even acts of the legislature are subordinate to that expression of the people of North Carolina in the Constitution. It is not, well, let me tell you, it's the function of the judiciary to faithfully interpret the law of the judicial review and determine whether it's compliant with our Constitution. It is not the function of the judiciary to express the will of the people or to right perceived wrongs allowed by laws that public sentiment deems unwise or ill-advised. I'm a Republican. I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm not a Republican judge. I am a conservative judge. My allegiance is to the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state, and the laws passed by Congress and the General Assembly. And I tell people, Republicans hate activist judges until they really want one. And Democrats love activist judges until they get the wrong one. I've been known to tell Republicans, if you want what you're asking me to happen, you need to go to Jones Street, because I do not legislate. It's not my job. And we interpret the legislature, our general statutes, the same way we do our Constitution. What did they mean when they wrote it? Not how we think it should be or as we might like it to be. I tell every jury that comes before me, you must apply the law as I give it to you, not as you think it is or as you might like it to be. Because justice requires that everyone, this is in a criminal case, tried for the same crime, be tried in the same way, and have the same law applied in each case. If we don't do that, we have 116 Superior Court judges. So how can we assure that each individual that comes before us is treated the same way? You hear a lot in the press about originalism, textualism, and how, at least on a national level, people are supposed to interpret the Constitution. Fortunately for us, we've been told through century of precedent in this state by Supreme Courts that at one time were dominated by Democrats how we interpret our Constitution. It's a cardinal principle in the interpretation of constitutions that they should receive a consistent and uniform construction. So as not to be given one meaning at one time and a different meaning at another time, even though circumstances may have changed so that as to render a different construction desirable. The will of the people, as expressed in the organic law, is subject to change only in the manner prescribed by law. So our Constitution is subject to change only by a vote of the people of this state. And we've done it. We've done it often. We've also declined to amend the Constitution at times when it's been put on the ballot. And that's what a conservative judge is, someone who follows the law. We don't make the law. Jefferson Griffin, who's running for Supreme Court, who I would encourage you all to vote for, says it like this: we call balls and strikes. But I say one more thing: we don't define the strike zone. Someone else does that. We don't get to say it's windy, wind's blowing from this side, so I'm going to have a little leeway, let the pitches come inside a little bit. We don't get to do that. Someone tells us what the strike zone is, and we follow that strike zone. We're not free because maybe one team hits better inside pitches than others. It's not fair. Fundamental fairness in this, under the law, begins with the same law being applied the same way to each individual. That is what a conservative judge does. I'm going to be followed by Tom Murray, who's another conservative with conservative principles. Thank you all very much.